Hello, my name's Dr. Marc Hudson and I recently completed my PhD which looked at incumbent resistance to carbon pricing in Australia between 1989 and 2011. And I've been asked some questions about Australia and climate policy which I'll do my best to answer. So the first question I was asked is, what does Australia's climate policy look like compared to other OECD countries with high emissions profiles? And the answer is always difficult because the OECD is not a homogeneous bloc, but suffice to say that Australia has always had a very high per capita carbon footprint as long as we've been caring about climate change. And that primarily comes from the fact that Australia burns a lot of brown coal and black coal to get its electricity. Now that's changed over the last few years, but only a little bit, and that's because we've been starting to burn a little bit more gas, and very recently more solar and hydro have come into the picture. The other factor that doesn't get mentioned all the time, but sometimes, is that Australia is the world's #1 exporter of coal since 1984. The Indonesians have taken over, I think, on thermal coal briefly, but on the whole, Australia exports vast quantities of coal, originally to Japan, but then also Taiwan, a bit to China. The story there is complicated, and it wants to export a lot to India. So whenever we're talking about carbon footprints, we need to look at exports as well. And the other thing that we need to look at is the fact that Australia has enormous renewable energy potential. Huge amounts of sun, huge amounts of space, and an advanced industrial base and scientific base where by now, if we'd taken climate change seriously from the 1980s onwards, we would be a major player in renewable energy technologies and energy storage, not to mention energy efficiency. So all of those things need mentioning.